morning, listeners and viewers, and welcome to a special Tete program today. We are privileged to have persons from the Diabetic Association. That's the president, who will speak to us shortly to situate this program, and then we will be engaging our very own Dr. Livingston Frasier, whom I will let you know more of after we have listened to Miss Roslyn Douglas. So good morning to everyone, wherever you are getting our signals. We welcome you. This program is very important. This program is exceedingly, and I stress this because it's one of the areas that we take perhaps a bit lightly in many cases, and we will be brought into a light, because when one suffers from this area of diabetes, they can speak from that experience. And I hope that experience will seek to convince all of you who are listening so that we can make the lifestyle changes that's very necessary. I'm Ruthina Victor, and as I said, we're going to be speaking diabetes today. But first off, we will invite Ms. Roslyn Douglas, who is the president of the Pedmeter Diabetes Association, to speak with us and to situate this program that we are having today. So good morning to you, Roslyn.
Good morning, Ruthina.
She's going to be speaking to us via our phone line. Can we get a little more volume?
Sure.
Yes. So
how is everyone doing this morning?
Well, for me, I'm doing fine.
Yes, and I'm fine. I'm fine, thank you.
And how are you doing?
No complaints. God is good.
Okay. All right. So,
welcome. Thank you so much for having us here and giving us this opportunity. It's always a pleasure to be with Good News Catholic Communications.
Yes, great. So you have spoken and have invited Dr. Livingston Frasier to be with us here today. And I know some time ago we have met with the Diabetics Association, and this month for you is a very special month. I think you coined it too sweet for your own good.
That's right.
So that indicates where we are going in terms of the topic that we'll be focusing on. But tell us just a bit of what's been happening by way of the association.
With pleasure. So I'm serving as the president of the Pedmeter Diabetic Group, which is under the St. David's branch of the Grenada Diabetes Association. So we know that we have the GDA, and in every parish, we have different branches. Now, because St. David's is so large, it was broken up into little groups. So the group that I'm a part of is the Pedmeter Diabetic Group. So residents who live within this village would attend meetings and events that we plan. What we've been doing for several years, specifically in the month of July, is called Too Sweet for Your Own Good. We used to have face-to-face mini symposiums, but we realized that we were getting a larger audience if we were to utilize social media and traditional media. And our choice was to ask to be a part of your program, which you have graciously done for almost going on 4 years now. So thank you very much.
It's so
when the group met, we decided on a topic. And the topic that we wanted to focus on is childhood diabetes and how children are impacted by diabetes, type 1 and type 2. And this is where we thought the best person to be able to provide medical expertise would be Dr. Livingston Frasier.
Oh, wonderful. So thank you. And as I said, thanks for letting our listeners and viewers know who is behind this initiative. And we want to continue to encourage you to keep doing the good work that you have started. So we will move over now to speak with our guest in studio. Is Dr. Livingston Nelson. Thank you, Ms. Douglas, for...
Thank you, Ruthina, and thank you, Dr. Frasier, for agreeing to do this.
Yes. So you have a wonderful day and spread the news that we're on. Yes. Okay, so listeners and viewers, we heard the voice there of Ms. Roslyn Douglas, who is the president of the Pedmeter Diabetics Group. Like they are part of a larger organization, which is the Grenada Diabetic Association. And meeting with Dr. Frasier for the first time somehow sent chills because I know most of his family, and I'm very happy to meet you. But just to say, by way of introduction, Dr. Livingston Frasier is 33 years old, young man, and he has shared with me that he has been living with diabetes mellitus for over 20 years. He has developed a strong sense of self-management and resilience through his long-term experience with the condition. And as you heard from the president, we'll be focusing on the area of obesity and diabetics in children. Dr. Frasier is currently under the medical care of one of the Cuban doctors, as you said. He's under medical care as well, and he's quite open to sharing this, and I'm very touched by that he himself is not afraid to speak of his own life and his own journey. So presently he's practicing as a house officer in the general surgery department at the General Hospital, where he provides comprehensive clinical support and patient care. So we have the pleasure of speaking with Doctor today. So welcome to Good News Catholic Radio, and we look forward to your expertise as by way of this, how would we describe it? Well, this medical condition of diabetes. So the first thing I thought was, are you interested in the study of diabetes, and what may have caused you to gain this interest in this area?
Okay,
yes.
So good morning to one and all, and it's a pleasure and an honor to be considered for this program here this morning, and I'm very delighted to be here, and I hope that we do enjoy and we be educated and sensitized of the whole topic and theme of diabetes. Mm-hmm. So yes, I do have the interest of studying, specialize in what you call endocrinology. It's a specialty that deals with mainly hormonal issues, also metabolic illnesses and diseases, which includes diabetes as one of the mainstream study as endocrinologist. So that actually came from me being diagnosed as a child. Since I had about 10 years, I was in primary school. I was diagnosed with diabetes since then, and visiting the hospital and clinics so regular. I looked up at the physicians, and I said, I'd like to be one of them. So that was one of my inspiration.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, Doc. So I imagine it wasn't easy for you as a child, and you mentioned just in the break that teachers are so astute, and sometimes they have eyes for things,
mm-hmm.
for details that perhaps others may miss. And you mentioned that a teacher recognized that something wasn't all there for you.
Yes, you're quite correct. When I was diagnosed, one of my main symptoms that was noted was frequent urination. And every few minutes, I would ask the teacher to go to the washroom. And she actually picked up on that because it was very frequent, I would go, urinate, drink some water, come back. The next few minutes, miss, I want to go out, and, she did pick up on that. And also she was a person that, she was living with diabetes as well.
Okay.
So she knew and she had some notion and knowledge about the condition. So then, we had to do the checkup, and so, yep.
So when you discovered that you were diagnosed as a child, did it affect you very much? Because the fact that God allowed you to continue on to become a medical doctor, this is amazing, and it's really commendable in many ways, yes? So how did that affect you, like your studies, how did you cope with that?
Okay, so how I would really describe it is that I had different phases of interaction, or or my behavior towards diabetes. I think when I was first diagnosed, I think my first earlier years, adolescent, so it was pretty rebellious. Because as any physician, any parent or so, children living with diabetes is not an easy, task, because you have to talk about the discipline, the check-in, and so forth. And generally, as children, it's not there. It's hard. So as time goes by, I got to come to grips, and understand the condition and all of that. And then even as an young adult, there was sometimes still I fell off the wagon and then have to come back again. Because living with diabetes is something that you think about 24/7, You cannot forget. Sometimes you think you want to forget about it, but it's there. It's there.
But as you said, it's hereditary. It's in your case, but in other cases it may not necessarily be hereditary.
Yeah.
So your whole family having to cope with this situation, I imagine. I have instances in my family too. I lost a brother, because it became complicated after a while, and my young niece.
Yeah.
It was very painful, to lose them. But I guess within your own family, I guess, did it bring you closer? Because, when things like that happen, it's like, one helped the other.
Yeah.
Did you find it any easier to be able to bear?
So it was both. It made it a bit scarier at times. Then it also give you a bit of motivation to avoid the complications as well. And then sometimes there's this point of what you call exhaustion sometimes, where most persons living with diabetes or so, a condition, they would reach a point at some, I'm just tired, and you just kind of give up for probably some time, and then after you catch back yourself again, and it's something actually normal. But to keep off the wagon for very, very long is dangerous, I would say. It's dangerous, And as you said, family history, I have very strong family history, both mother and father. Most of my siblings are living with diabetes. Also I lost a brother as well. He was living with diabetes and with complications of diabetes, So these are things, I would say, it gives me mixed reactions towards this situation,
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Listeners and viewers, this is Dr. Livingston Frasier, and we are talking diabetes today. He shared his own, part of his own journey, and still, continuing to struggle with this whole medical condition. So, doc, people might be hearing, and perhaps they've heard it before, what really is diabetes? Because we read of two. We have diabetes and we have diabetes mellitus. Is there a difference in both, and what really is it?
So you have diabetes, which is just a general word, and then you have diabetes mellitus and diabetes insipidus. So generally the word diabetes in a general sense comes from Latin and the whole medicine, and so it has to do with like frequent urination and so forth. But diabetes mellitus actually comes from is like sweet.
Oh, okay.
Right? And then you have diabetes insipidus, which has to do with some other hormonal and pituitary that's in the base of the skull or so, where persons will be urinating a lot, but it doesn't really relate to the glucose or being sweet. So it's like the diabetes mellitus has to do with glucose, sweet, right, honey. Because even the first diagnosis, one of the first diagnoses of diabetes mellitus is they would let someone urinate on the ground, and then after you would check to see if ants would come
Oh.
Yeah, because of the sugar in the urine.
And then you mentioned another one that I hadn't heard. You said the mellitus, the diabetes itself, which is the frequent urination, this one,
so
the sweet, and then
right, diabetes insipidus. So that's a different, so that's a different classification of diabetes. Two, as I said, the two of them actually gives you frequent urination, but the mellitus is the one with the sugar. And the next one has to do with hormonal imbalances and then person urinating a lot.
So obviously, the signs and the symptoms you have, but in terms of the signs and the symptoms, you said the person will be urinating a lot, but that desire for sweet or that desire for water or that kind, how do you describe, or do you place these in terms of signs and symptoms?
So, so we mentioned about the toss and urination. So basically, the person will be urinating frequently, like it will be every half an hour, right? And then they will be feeling thirsty. So they will drink a 1.5 Glenelg, and then 30 minutes they would urinate and then still feel thirsty, like if they never drank anything. And then they will go back and drink the water and then urinate. And the cycle goes on and on. Reason being is that the body reaches a point where I think when you go back to the definition, what is diabetes mellitus, which is the increase of glucose or sugar, or in layman terms, of that said amount in the blood. So you have an increase in glucose in the blood. Do I have to break it down again? Like
no, increase, right? But if there's an increase, my mind went back to, is there like the initial stages and then you have advanced stages? For example, you drink the water, you go to the bathroom, you want water again. Is that a sign that the condition is moving to a more advanced stage, or when do you kind of nip it in the bud, like it's just coming on? That it could be, managed at that stage.
It doesn't necessarily say at what stage in terms of its advance, but it actually, if it's you pay attention to it, it could tell you that it's there. But anyway, but it's a mechanism which the body uses to get rid of the excess glucose in the bloodstream.
So that's why you go often.
And also we are dehydrated. Like remember in primary school, secondary school, we used to put salt on top of cucumber or tomato or whatever it is, or you put sugar and then water comes out. So it makes us dehydrated as well. So we constantly dehydrated. Right.
And we just want to wonder about the eyes, if there's any signs in the eye or the lip.
Right. So I think probably if the eyes, it could give possibly advance or even then and there, because for example, if the glucose again is elevated in the bloodstream, so the person will have blurry vision. Blurry vision could be a sign. Advanced, you're talking about diabetic neuropathy, which is, that would be a sign of advanced, progression of the disease in a person, right? What about person's eating? So hunger. So you're going to eat and still feel hungry. You're going to eat, and actually I had experienced it as well. It happens because what happens is that the body cannot utilize the glucose in the bloodstream. So at the cellular level and the tissue level, it cannot use the glucose. If you think about it, the glucose in the bloodstream is like gasoline or fuel that we use to do work and everything. Right. But you would eat, yes, and it goes in the stomach and it goes in the bloodstream. But the cells cannot use it because either you have the problem with insulin, which that's another thing. So insulin is responsible for using glucose, right? That helps that glucose enters into the cell. right? And then we would see that the difference between the type 1 and the type 2. Because with the insulin, you can utilize the glucose for energy, right? And if you don't have insulin, or if you have a little amount, or if the insulin is not working properly, or if you have insulin resistance, you'd have problems in utilizing that glucose to use at the cellular level. So that's why in general cases, the glucose in the bloodstream goes up, and the body and the cells cannot utilize it.
Okay. And it cannot store it. It will, yes. And then, the body, just as, spiritual, nature, health-wise, the body always needs balance. You cannot have too much of anything. So the body has a regulation of what's the normal blood sugars, and then once they go over a certain threshold, What's the normal range? Because, some people have to prick themselves every day
right.
to check this, and it has a certain range, and when it steps over that range, people get really concerned.
So generally, we would have a range for the regular person, and then you would have a range for the persons living with diabetes.
Okay.
Nonetheless, the person living with diabetes can also try to keep themselves in the range of the normal person. So generally, we would say the range of a normal person between 70, that's milligram per deciliter. That's the unit that we use in the Caribbean, United States, and some of the other places. Right, so between 70 to 125, 130 milligrams per deciliter, right? Sometimes we could allow it to go a little higher, right? Depends. But the body has a mechanism of when we eat or drink, right? It allows, yes, the glucose to go up a little, but then the insulin will work on it so that our cells can use it and it goes back down at regular levels.
Okay.
So in terms of a person living with diabetes and control, so you use that same 70 at the bottom and 199, 200 for the up level. Depending on you and your doctor and so forth, they will try to give you, okay, let's go up to 180 for the most. Let's keep it. That's the highest you should go. So, every person, once they have their follow-up and control, they will decide at what. But generally, at that 200 and lower, they try to keep it down. But the lower you can have it, the better.
So, sometimes you go for the testing and they said, okay, you do a fasting blood test.
Right.
So that gives you a more accurate, I guess, reading than when you eat.
Right.
So most of the time to do a test for diabetes, it would have to be a fasting blood test.
Right, generally. So this will be one of the few tests that is done for the diagnosis or to see the control of the diabetes. So the fasting blood test, yes, it's done after at least 68 hours of fasting. Right, and the range there would take you up to 125, 126 milligrams per deciliter. Once you reach 126 and up, you'll be considered diabetic.
Interesting here because some people are told
and fasting.
You're borderline,
right.
And then you still feel it's not too bad, I'm borderline, so I can take chances. But what would you say to persons whom doctors have said to that you're borderline? What does that mean?
Well, persons that you have a discussion with your practitioner and they tell you borderline. There is still a cause for concern. And then that concern is to remove you from the borderline to bring you back into, in the know. One of the other tests that I could talk about is what they call the HbA1c.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
This is the A1C that, that we speak about. And actually, this test gives us, the practitioners a more accurate reading over a 3-month period.
Okay.
And because someone could trick a fasting, I could trick I could trigger fasting, but I cannot trigger HbA1c. You know, so
you could trigger fasting.
Yeah, you could trigger fasting, meaning the patient knows that, let's say the patient has been having the blood sugars high all the time, and then he knows, okay, on Friday I'm going to do a fasting, but a day before, you know, you eat less, you take your medication well, you test, and you just make sure that morning that fasting glucose is perfectly fine. But with a HbA1c, you cannot do that. It actually gives you an average of how your blood sugar is over a 3-month period. So you have your diagnostic, meaning, well, your diagnostic levels, and also you have your control levels. So if you go in a bit of numbers, 6.5 and above is considered someone living with diabetes. All right? Between 5.5 to 6.4, that's where they will call the borderline.
Okay.
Right? But as you closer in the 6 unit there, it's a very close threshold to being a diabetic. So most of these what they call pre-diabetes patients, lifestyle changes, right, is one of the first steps. Some doctors, depending on the specialty, depending on their training, would start medication as well.
That's a concern for many people. It's like they wish not to start this medication and to have to take this insulin, and there's a resistance and a non-compliance in some cases, you know. Sometimes they think, well, the doctor could wait a bit before he introduces me to, and when I start, can I come off?
Right. That's actually a case-to-case basis, because a lot of the times persons, and I do agree, yes, you're reluctant to start medication, but at the end of the day, if there is no improvement, you would have to, you know. And then if medication can be given and then you have what they call a reversal or so forth, and you have better readings, and then possibly you could come off the medication with just lifestyle changes. You know, but all the time, lifestyle changes. Lifestyle changes at first.
Just before we take a break, did we talk about the type 1 and type 2?
All right.
I'm not quite sure, but there are these two categories, yes.
All right, so let me just, I think your audience should by now know what is diabetes. But diabetes is basically the increase of blood glucose, right? Or increase of glucose in the blood, or what you call hyperglycemia. So there are many different types, and even recent research showed there are a lot of types, which I need to go back and read on, because they had developed some new divisions of diabetes that I think we should, you know, update ourselves, even as a nation and so. But the 3 main types, you have type 1 diabetes mellitus, you have type 2, you have gestational diabetes, and then there are other classifications that are probably in some episode afterwards we could go in, you know. But the type 2 diabetes is, I'll just start with that one because it's the most common one we'd find. Usually it is diagnosed in adults, but recently there are high incidences and prevalence of diagnosis of type 2 diabetes in children. So let me just go back. We spoke about the insulin and the role of insulin in the blood. The role of insulin is to help utilize the glucose in the bloodstream as energy for our cells and our organs, right? So with the type 2, there is a presence of insulin generally. There is a presence of insulin, but there are what you call probably functionality problems. So it's possibly that the insulin is not working, or the volume of insulin is not enough. Right? That could be one. Also, you could have what you call resistance of the insulin, caused by, you could call fat, because with fat around cells also you can have insulin resistance. And also with hormonal changes, for example, in pregnant women and other persons, obese and so.
Menopause.
Some of these things could actually cause insulin resistance, causing the increase of glucose staying in the blood stream, right? With type 2, generally it's hereditary family.
Okay.
Usually found in obese persons as well.
Okay.
Also related to lifestyle. Then type 1 generally is also sidelined with juvenile diabetes. Generally is diagnosed among children, young adults, or sometimes adults as well. But mainly it is diagnosed at an earlier age. Generally as well, because right now I think in medicine or in life there's no absolute, because sometimes you might find a type 1 that has family history, sometimes not, and vice versa for the next side. So generally they don't have family history. Also they call it what they call an autoimmune disease, where we're going back to the function again, our pancreas, which is the base organ that produces insulin. So we keep going back. I hope everybody paying attention, the role of insulin, and then we're going back to what produces insulin. Right, so there are special cells in the pancreas which produces insulin. Right, in the type 1, you have what they call a destruction of these cells. They call them the the beta cells of the pancreas.
Okay.
These cells are destroyed, so you have little or no production of insulin. There were a lot of speculations of why that happened. Autoimmune, meaning self-destructive. So something went wrong, some viral infection, and then at some point in time, the body sees these cells in the pancreas as the enemy,
so
and it started there, right? There were a lot of speculations of why viral infection, I think certain milk products while giving the baby, giving babies and stuff like that, and so forth. But as we said, type 1, little or no insulin. So this one, the patient is insulin dependent. Oh yes, and that's the next difference. The type 1 patient is insulin dependent, and type 2, generally the patient is not insulin dependent. But in type 2 as well, there comes a point where the person becomes insulin dependent.
But if their lifestyle changes, it may not necessarily.
Right.
Okay. Wow, this is very interesting. Thank you so much, listeners and viewers. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, as you heard from the president, she's mentioned about diabetes in children, obesity and so on. So we're going to look into that when we come back after the short break. But you can also call in 435-0143 or post your comments on our Facebook page, and the doctor will respond to you as best he can. So we're going to take a short break now, and we'll be right back to continue speaking about diabetes. welcome back, listeners and viewers, to this very special Tete program today with Dr. Livingston Frasier, our very own. From Beaulieu?
From Lamode.
So all the people in Lamode, your own doctor, and very proud of you to be able to connect with you on this very serious health issue of diabetes. Now, we mentioned that children, we are seeing, I don't know in your practice, if you've seen an increase in the age group or stage, but particularly in our children, because we notice now people are not too concerned about the extra fat on their body. It seems as though they delight in that, and you mentioned that obesity is a serious threat to our health and physical inactivity and so on. But with our children, share with us on the impact. As you said, you have been diagnosed in primary school, and the suffering that it continues to bring to you. We're trying to see, as you said, prevention is better than cure. We're trying to cure something that is costly and has a lot of stress going with it. So let's speak about the children and the obesity and what could be advised to their parents and guardians.
All right, so yes, the system, I've seen here an increase in the number of children diagnosed with diabetes, and one of the main concern is that type 1 diabetes is the one where you do not have too much control, or like in terms of prevention. But type 2 is more the one that you could do more in terms of prevention. And what you're seeing that in children, there is an increase of type 2 diabetes.
Okay. Which
relates to obesity, childhood obesity. I think food and nutrition and so forth, they have been doing some campaigns, against childhood obesity and so forth. Also the diet of the children, as you say, the sweets, eat something, soft drink, and so the lifestyle of the children these days. We have our gadgets. Before we used to go around and play, run, fall, play marbles and so, or even away from school. We used to walk from school, but now we have bus, our parents have vehicles, so we don't exercise or do it, and it's a cause for concern. It is a cause for concern, the childhood obesity.
Now, when the weight comes on, like some people don't lose weight as easily as you put it on,
right?
And for children, as I said, we have been, your parents said, you eat this, I know it's good for you. I remember my mom saying, if I see it isn't good for you, I would not give it to you. So you didn't have much option where you ask, what is it you want to make your choice with this or that or the other? You were given what your parents could have afforded. And most of it was natural, growing from the land, and you had some fruit in the land, and she would give us what? The land.
The organic.
And not a lot, because, 10 children are a big family.
Exactly, they share.
You can't overeat, really, except there's a special day when you get extras,
Right.
But food and nutrition, I think they are doing a lot of work in our schools to encourage, and even the school feeding programs in our various schools. In fact, even the vendors, and so they are advised not to sell certain products near the school or so on, but I guess some people still pass through, because it's been imported, so you hardly have, and even if they make the local drink, they still put too much sugar. But if you practice, if you break them into habits, eventually a child might just, if something has too much sugar, may not even want it, because you've trained them not to, consume too much sugar. So they were speaking of this initiative of weaning children off. Those who have been almost addicted to those sweet stuff. How do you wean them off to get them on healthier
than
products or food stuff and so?
So, well, I think that's a very good initiative, but I think it will call for, a lot of work. Because the children, as it is, as the sweet stuff could be very addictive, and then once they get started on it, it will be a task to actually take them off. So I think that initiative, it has to be consistent, working along with the teachers, working along with the parents. Everyone has to be on board, because if they introduce it to schools, but then when the children go home, they have access to, it doesn't make sense,
Convenience.
Exactly. And as you say, the children nowadays, I would say we have a lot of more options, as you see.
True.
We have a lot of more options. But, and when I think about it, Grenada, we are blessed. You spoke about the organic. We still could get stuff from the land without any preservatives and so on, And if we promote this local, healthy diet, that would, assist us in somewhat. Even also the physical activity of the children that is actually needed to keep, keep them active, keep their blood flowing, decrease the chance of the same diabetes, hypertension, the obesity. And that obesity in itself is considered a condition, illness. Yep.
Wow, so this sounds good. So we, in terms of the control and management, once someone is diagnosed, but we are promoting prevention is better than cure. So we need to take the actions. And then when, as you said, when exercise was a natural part of our living, with the washing and the, hard manual work and stuff, even the cleaning of the yard, we didn't have all these weed whackers.
No. It's a pelton.
You understand? And some of these people are so healthy and live for so long.
long
but
time.
we were looking for the easiest means. And then we had to factor in exercise because our jobs.
Yes, of course.
It's so engaging, and I guess sometimes doctors too. Even if you are the ones advising us, you also are challenged in terms of getting your exercise and eating on time, because I guess sometimes situations become so rough where you have to, the patient is a priority kind of thing, and so it becomes difficult. So you also have to be careful and to exercise,
Exactly.
Exercise. Imagine it's hard at times.
Well, I could confess, I keep starting and stopping, but I promise myself soon I need to get back on the bandwagon and do my exercise. It actually, I always see much better results with exercise. My insulin, well, I'm on insulin. I use insulin for my diabetes. My insulin doses are much lower. Also, I lose weight. I feel better. I feel more energized and everything like that. But I don't think it's just a challenge for me, but a challenge for a wide, range of us. But it's something that we cannot give up. Something that we, we're not going to give up. We keep going to be pressing.
Pressing on, yes. Now, there's a comment here on Facebook. Hi, Mello. Sweet brown sugar girl. She says we import all these high sugar drinks that are very attractive to our kids, while we have our local fruits going to waste. And we see it every day. We fail to encourage our children in exercising programs or even outside games, as you mentioned earlier. So I think we all agree with this, and we have to, the policy makers, we have to challenge them too, but also to encourage to use the local products. You walk around, you see so many mangoes wasting and carambola and all of these fruits, like we don't even bother with some of those things, cherries, which is so healthy. So we have to take responsibility, for our health as well. I think also, Doc, I was reading something from the WHO of a prediction, because they said 5.37 million adults worldwide have diabetes, representing some 10.3% of global adult population. And there's a projection that suggests that 78.3 million in 2045, I think somewhere around there,
Right.
or I'm not quite sure on the year, and that this is frightening,
Yes.
because it means if we do not take stock, I don't know, we have our children, grandchildren, we ourselves, so we have to live by example.
Yes.
In that case, because this is serious, what is happening in our world. And we didn't even talk about the complications that go with diabetes. Yeah? So we have a call online. Good morning. Welcome to
Good morning, Mrs. Victor. How are you?
I am fine. I hope you are fine too.
Well, I'd like to congratulate Dr. Livingston Frasier on his talk. It's very interesting. And tell the president I'm listening, Miss George is listening.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So pass the word around, because as many people as
okay.
possible need to hear this. And it will be repeated this evening at 8 o'clock on the radio. And I would encourage the producer to repeat it on TV and other parts. Or you can access it on the Facebook page, okay? Or YouTube, for persons who are not able to access it at the moment. So, Doctor, this projection, the people who are living with diabetes and the projected path.
So, yes, there is an upgoing trend. And the trend it's not, I think one of the objectives now for the World Health Organization, International Diabetes Federation, all these big, is to try to curb these expectations, because we as, we just call it a developing country, we are the ones a lot of the times that get the hard end of the stick. And, where these things will be manifested in our workforce, because you have more person with disabilities and stuff. So, as we could talk about quickly, the complications like blindness, right? Amputations, right? Kidney diseases. Where person have to go on dialysis. Grenada doesn't have a transplant center for kidney, so person just go on a kidney and dialysis until, and a lot of heart problems. So these things actually projected with increased diabetes with complication. But now, what's going to be our response? You spoke about the policy makers. What about every unit, the family? What are we going to do to curb these surges that is expected in the future? Are we going to sit back and leave it? Let us just take the whole nation away, or are we going to do something about it?
Fantastic. And just the other point, they were saying that there are many persons living, a significant number of people living with diabetes, and they're unaware of the condition.
Right. So as we speak about the signs and symptoms, these are for the persons that, manifest the signs and symptoms, but there are many people that do not manifest any signs or symptoms.
Okay.
And sometimes, some of these people, the first sign or symptom is sadly a complication, and not just a simple sign, So this is where you would have the screening and the health fairs. So I think right now in Grenada, they're quite, over the year, the last couple of years, we've been having multiple health fairs in multiple communities, multiple times of the year. So I think these are things that we can take advantage of, and, even if you don't do your regular checkup by a doctor, you don't have any pressure, you don't have no sugar, you don't have nothing, but you do your yearly checkup. These are things that would assist you in checking. Or probably you don't reach the point of, you might be I would just say borderline, but then you can make lifestyle changes, all right? And you can bring yourself back to normal and stuff. And
Wonderful. Now we have Carnival almost, it's in the air. And around that time, some people pack up the medication, take a break, because they know what they're going to do. Now, what advice can you give to all our listeners and viewers at this time, where the consuming of the alcohol will be increased, and buying food on the road, wherever, because you ain't bothering to cook and do all this kind of thing. So what would you advise those listeners and viewers, particularly during this season, because I can't say as we prepare, because to me, we're in it already.
Right, you're in it. Well, according to the saying, they say job must play. But you know, persons have to be very careful. You know, very careful. We see a lot that persons, as you say, oh, they're gonna drink a lot of alcohol, so they would leave off their medication. That is dangerous. The overconsumption of alcohol in itself is dangerous. So I would advise, as a professional, you drink in moderation. That's the first thing. Drink in moderation, and do not leave off your medication, because at the end of the day, you would end up in general hospital, right? And then when the doctor asks you, have you been taking your medication? No, how long, how? And then you end up with more complication of your high blood pressure, of your diabetes, and then you're giving the health system more stress, which is already on strain.
Yes.
So if we be conscious, you know, and be honest, be diligent to ourselves, continue taking your medication, please. We urge you, coming from the general hospital.
Because, you know, people talk about medication, taking your medication and drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
I've heard that it doesn't agree.
There are some, actually, it's not all medications, but generally, the pharmacists there's a vast majority, yes. But then for most precautions, it do not, you understand? And with that, you know, you find that what they call a decompensation. You know, your heart problem or the pressure or same the diabetes, it's gone skyrocketing. If you don't have a glucose machine, you're not checking it. You need to check your blood sugar, you know, and all these things. I mean, if we have persons with financial challenges. I mean, if you could take a $10 and $20 and put on your phone, you could find $50 to buy some shit for your health, because then you will get sick and then spend $200 on a blood test that you don't have.
Yes.
You know, so we have to be, you know, smart about it.
What about sleep? Rest. You're smiling?
I'm smiling.
Can you don't get enough rest? We all don't get enough rest.
I like to preach that to myself, but yes, rest is very important. Lack of rest would easily have you uncontrolled, the pressure, the sugar, you know. Lack of rest, indeed. But with constant monitoring, adjusting doses, lifestyle, same exercise, and so all of these things will help. Actually, one of the mechanisms that actually helped me through med school. You know, I studied in Cuba for 7 years with the condition, and as I always say, my best controls, to be honest, was then. And not now. Right now I'm fighting, but I'm not going to give up, you know. Just as anybody out there listening, if you're living with diabetes, you never give up. You have to continue. You go back to the drawing board, you test, you take your medication, you go back. If you're already on medication, you continue your medication. If you need to go back to your physician to readjust and to see how you're going, you do that. You know, some persons say, oh, I don't want medication and I want to take bush. Well, I don't mind. You could take a bush, but if you're not checking, you cannot just take a bush, you go back to a helter-skelter lifestyle, and then your sugar high and then your organs going. It doesn't make sense. If you take your bush and you test your sugar and everything is controlled, well, you know, all well. But you need to have that level of responsibility. You know,
Wow. Wow.
Yep.
Valuable information, Doc, and particularly, we need it all the time. You know, we need to remind ourselves, as you yourself admit, You know, we know what to do, but when the time comes, you know, it's such a challenge, but each one help the other, you know, and say, did you do your exercise today? Did you check, you know? So we can offer that kind of assistance and to speak to them of your own journey as well. So we really want to thank you, Doc, for making it possible to be here with us after your night on call. You know, this is a real labor of love, and we really do appreciate and really pray for you and for all others who have this health condition of battling with diabetes. We also want to thank Ms. Roslyn Douglas and the members of the Pedmata Diabetic Group, you know, for organizing this, particularly this month, as they refer to it, Too Sweet for Your Own Good. So watch that. Can be too sweet for our own good. There's moderation, test, as Doctor emphasized. Please be obedient. Do what you've got to do. Get your rest. Watch your eating habits and your general lifestyle practices. We want to thank you, Dr. Livingston Frasier, for being here, and particularly proud of you as one of our very own, and to encourage you to keep on giving the little that you are giving, which is very much. Okay? So on behalf of all of us here at Good News Catholic Communication, we thank all of you, our listeners and viewers, and we pray that we'll encourage each other on the road to a healthier lifestyle. So may God bless you, and we will see you
and
another time.
Thank you.
Thank you
pleasure.
very much. Thank you.
All right.